Hello and welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, healer, tarot enthusiast, and your local witch next door, and today I'm talking about the Page of Cups. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. If you love the show, the best way to support it is by listening daily, leaving a review, and subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. For monthly hangouts, tarot Q&As, individual readings, and behind-the-scenes peeks, join the Everyday Tarot Patreon family. If you're local to the greater Puget Sound area, check out the Let's Talk Tarot meetup group for the latest event postings. If you're not local to my area, you can join me for a virtual tarot card creation event on Friday, June 20th at 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I'll give you a list of recommended supplies, we'll meet online, and I'll walk you through the process of creating your own cards, and I'll show you some of the ones that I've created. I have a sign-up link in the show notes where you can get on the list to join the event. If you're interested in my free PDF with the 2025 5-card tarot spread I created just for you, at the beginning of this year, you can get that by joining my newsletter list. My weekly newsletter always has the most up-to-date information on my upcoming events, presentations, musings, and info and photos of my day-to-day life. Right now, I know that I just got approved to 2 different events that I'll be doing this summer. The first one you can see me at in person will be at the Tacoma Pride. I'll have a booth there where I will be doing my tarot card creation crafting with folks there, and I'll have some stickers to hand out. You can meet me there and you can craft some of your own tarot cards. I'll have all the supplies in person. If you are at Tacoma Pride, that's July 12th in the afternoon. And then I will be at Enchanticon in St. Louis, Missouri. The event is August 15th through the 17th. I just found out today my time. I'll be there at 2:30 Central Daylight Time on Sunday the 17th to do a presentation on, trying to remember my title right now. It's called Not Just Tea Leaves, Trelawney, Tarot, and Trusting Yourself. So those are places where you can see me in person coming up. And if you don't know already, I'm a sex and relationship therapist, seeing clients virtually all over Washington State. I love working with queer, poly, and witchy clients. If you'd like to work with a therapist that doesn't judge you, is a little bit witchy just like you, and helps you learn how to deal with anxiety, chronic pain or illness, communication issues, self-advocacy, and sex, head to my website and book a free consultation now. You can find the links for any of these offers in the show notes or on my website, CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot, in addition to the images of the cards I pull on each episode. All right, so we are in season 9 now, where I'm talking all about the Suit of Cups, going through each card one per episode. We are getting close to the end here. We're entering the court cards. So if you haven't listened to my other seasons yet, you can check those out. In season 1, I talked tarot basics. Seasons 2 and 3 were about the major arcana and the 4 suits. Season 4, I talked tarot and pop culture. Season 5, I went through 13 common tarot spreads. And seasons 6, 7, and 8 were the Suit of Wands, Pentacles, and Swords. So I'm wrapping it up here with the Suit of Cups. If you want to hear an episode dedicated to an overview of the whole Suit of Cups, you can check out episode 38 of the podcast. But today I'm talking about the Page of Cups. So if you have a tarot deck accessible, you can go ahead and flip through it and find your Page of Cups card. Some of the common images or symbols that I see associated with these cards are intuition, keys, innocence, sensitivity, creativity, inner child, playfulness, movement, and flexibility. So I'm looking at 3 of the decks in front of me that have 3 representations of the Page of Cups card. So in the Anima Mundi Tarot deck by Megan Weiberwenden, we see a sea otter, I believe. They sort of are in the water, belly up facing us. We see this sort of like sea kelp or some plants flowing behind the seal or the otter. We see a cup sort of suspended in the air and the water above it. And if you've ever seen sea or river otters, right, they're very playful. They're very social. They're often interacting with each other. They often, I don't know, when I see them at the zoo, they have like a ball that they're often like passing around or rolling around with. They're also like very flexible and move in a lot of like circles. Again, they're a water critter, so cups are associated with the element of water. In the Anima Mundi Tarot deck, all of the cups cards all have different water animals in them. I was just going to see which otter it was. Okay, it is a sea otter. It says the Page of Cups is boundless, intuitive, and a bit of an inner child. Don't be afraid to dream big and follow your heart. Additionally, be sure to listen to your intuition. It's trying to tell you something. So it's all about youthful energy, freedom, inspiration, intuition, and positive messages. We love to hear that. Love some positivity right now. In the Therapist Who Tarot deck, prompts by Drea Bloom and images by Rebecca Bloom. The card, actually all these cards I'm looking at have like a lot of blue tones and yellow, which is very interesting. In this one, we get sort of an abstract image of a person. They sort of have brown hair. We see green eyes. And then we just sort of see like a vague outline of the body. They have a cup in front of them. And then we see all these circles like on the body. There's also some behind the image. And the word associated with this card on this one is meditation. And this deck does not have a tarot deck guidebook with it, but does have reflection questions on the back of each card. So the questions for this one are, what gifts have you received from your family of origin? What burdens have you received from your family of origin? And what is your favorite place? So again, if we think about that inner child aspect of the card, right, like our inner child is often the part of us that was exposed to a lot of things in childhood and that maybe was like tampered down as we became an adult and got older and were maybe told we shouldn't be into those things anymore, or again like from trauma, which I think is part of why, right, we have these questions about what gifts, right, did we learn, and also what burdens, right, did we maybe gain from our family of origin, which in like this is a therapy word or like a way of talking about it, but basically just the family you grew up with, whether that's biological, chosen family, whoever was around you. And then what is your favorite place? Where again, we sort of get this like inner child, like, right, what brings you this joy? What brings you this sense of safety? And if we think about meditation too, right, like maybe that favorite place is like a mental place. I know it makes me think about sort of like fantasy or fictional books or different, right, worlds that we like to, or at least I like to, read about and sort of transport myself into when I'm reading about them or watching TV or watching a movie or even just at a convention or a conference, like just embodying and thinking a lot about the universe that things are created in, right? And meditation can be like that too. It can be this place that you go mentally for safety and stability. It doesn't always work that way, but I think that's one way to view it. And lastly, in the Sacerdote Tarot deck by Stacia Burrington, we see a femme presenting person. They have short, sort of blonde or whitish hair. They're holding a key in their hand. They look sort of like mischievous or knowing. They have sort of like a keyhole in their dress, like on their chest. And then we see that their body or their dress is this like sort of cosmic looking dress. Like it's blue and black, and then we see these white spots all over, which makes me think of like the stars. They're also holding a bow, like from a bow and arrow, but we don't actually see an arrow. We just see the bow, and then we see the, I'm trying to remember what it's called, the word like gauntlets coming to mind. I don't know if that's what it's called, but the thing that you wear on your arm if you do bow and arrow so that you don't get like rug burn from the way that the bow or the arrow like can rub up against you when you pull it. So this one, there is this sort of like perhaps like creativity or thing going on. I'm going to look in the book to see if there's additional information that I could provide. So it says the Page of Cups is emotional, intuitive, intimate, and loving, thoughtful, sentimental, and romantic. Okay, so in some decks it's shown as Cupid. So, right, in this one we have like the bow, right, which Cupid is often depicted with this bow and arrow. It says the young woman on this card holds a key showing that her heart is easy access. Feelings flow easily for her. She's good at listening to her heart and gut. This card could indicate the advancement of a relationship or the suggestion to be more open and loving, to display acts of affection and generosity. So again, when we think about like our inner child or like actual children, right, feelings flow easily often, right? Children have very big emotions and they haven't been taught to feel bad about expressing them. They're often really in tune with like their body, right, when they're comfortable, when they're not, and they're good at communicating it, which sometimes can be crying, right, or throwing a temper tantrum, or right, laughing or smiling very freely. So that is also sort of resonant in this card where, right, it's like feeling free to show how you actually feel, right, being open to things, again, sort of not having learned this way of like closing yourself off or thinking that, oh, I don't need other people, or like that the safe thing to do is to not trust, which is kind of interesting. And again, I think a thing that a lot of us as adults can identify with, or at least having felt that way at points in the past. In the Library of Esoterica, Tarot book by Taschen, they talk about that the Page of Cups is all about compassion, creativity, creative potential through a wellspring of emotions. So again, that emphasis on emotions, which is also related to water and cups as the element. The Page of Cups is a card of intimacy, encouraging us to trust in our intuition. So there is this also connection between, right, our inner world or sort of our gut instincts, and right, emotion, and also trust and intimacy with other people. And that doesn't have to be like, it can be emotional intimacy. It can be the sense of vulnerability, of trusting other people, right? Putting your, again, like trust or well being in other people's hands, and like allowing them to come through for you, and not just sort of locking yourself down, right? Again, the Page of Cups in the Sacerdote Tarot deck, she has the key, right? And like she is open to things, like she is allowing emotions freely. She's noticing what comes up for her and making decisions based off of that. In the Tarot and Astrology book by Corinne Kenner, they talk about that the Page of Cups is the personification of water. She embodies the fluid undercurrents that connect the suit of cups to the world of emotion, and she unites the three water signs of Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Like water itself, the Page of Cups is graceful, but she can also be unpredictable. She can be effervescent or still, choppy or smooth. She's adaptable. She readily takes the form of her container and rises to the level of emotions around her. The Page of Cups speaks the language of the sea. She communicates through the misty realm of dreams and watery psychic impressions. Her messages can be subtle, or they can roar like the pounding surf. You can find her in rivers and streams, lakes and ponds, or oceans and underground wells. She wades along the shoreline of emotions and splashes in the liquid pool of the collective unconscious. Like all pages, the Page of Cups is youthful, with childlike enthusiasm and boundless capacity to learn. She's extremely sensitive. She's gentle and kind, dreamy and imaginative. She's a poet, an artist, and a dreamer. She's still innocent enough to be optimistic. She holds the Ace of Cups, which is sacred to Juno, the goddess of marriage and childbirth. In time, the Page of Cups will drink from the cup herself and taste the bittersweet nectar of wisdom and experience. Interesting. As I was reading that, it's making me think about, again, that as I'm recording this right now, for me, it's June 11th, 2025, where we are having a full moon right now. I think there's like a lot of emotional connection and energy right now, at least where I am in the United States. There's a lot of protests going on. Um, and I'm just sort of thinking about, and also as this episode comes out, it is Friday the 13th, which in witchy world is a good thing. I know in sort of maybe non-witchy spaces, Friday the 13th is seen as unlucky or like a thing to be avoided. But for a lot of witchy folks, it's a very sort of like sacred time, a spooky time. Um, if you have any tattoos or go to any tattoo shops, they often do create images just to tattoo on people on Friday the 13th. And they sort of play with this like idea of spooky things or the unlucky aspect, black cats, like some of these superstitious types of things. But it's also interesting because I feel like there is this, I'm trying to make these connections right now between like the superstition, which can also be like intuition or ritual. I think with the Page of Cups, right, we're being sort of called to you like allow for our childlike emotions to come forth, which I don't know, it just really makes me think of the protests of like not um, hiding behind what is deemed um, what am I trying to say? I guess like allowing our emotions to fuel us, right? And go out into the streets and protest things against ICE or Freedom for Palestine or things that we really care about and that we don't want to have happening in this country, in the US. Um, Fascism and this almost that this Page of Cups energy, which can sometimes seem right, maybe immature, I think also can really like fuel us to like go with our gut, right? If your gut is saying this is not okay, right? Then like, yeah, that's why we're protesting, right? That's why we're going out into the streets. That's why we're blocking things or right trying to show how we actually feel because if not, if we hide behind this decorum or what other people say peaceful protest should look like or just abiding by the rules, like that doesn't work. um it also just doesn't like that's not what this moment is calling us to. um and I don't know a whole ton about the full moon right now. I believe it's in Sagittarius, which is also, so Sagittarius is fire sign, has fiery energy, is often about travel and movement and new ideas and sometimes chaotic energy. But I think sort of this like Page of Cups, like soulful sensitivity, right? Childlike enthusiasm, the sort of like go with the flowedness of like a sea otter, is being mashed with this full moon in Sagittarius of, right, like get shit done action, right? Like I'm going out in the streets, I'm moving, I'm preparing myself, I'm maybe going to have to be dealing with weapons used by the police, with fiery energy, right? With tear gas, with um, violence potentially. And that is also, right, very fiery energy in sort of like the shadow way of fiery energy, um, in that it's being fueled for their means. And yeah, I'm just really thinking about that this Page of Cups and this Friday the 13th that's coming up, that this episode is on, is calling us into this like, okay, like go with your intuition. Your intuition is saying that things are not okay. And like, how do I, right, use creativity? How do I use, right, like, and allow my emotions to come up right now because I really care about these things and I don't like where this country, these politics, this government, um, this world is going. And I'm going to take that like creative the ability to believe in a different future and my intuition, and I'm going to fuel it right into my fiery full moon Sagittarius aspect that's coming out right now. Um, yeah, and I think also like with that, right, we have to think about ways to protect ourselves and our own like energy, right? Again, if you're going out there, um, like being prepared, right? Having like first aid for yourself, having water, right? Page of Cups like is a water sign, right? Having these things that sort of allow us to be robust, having community, having right? Phone numbers written down, having things available to you, going out in a collective energy is also just, right, like allows us to do a lot more. Again, if you think of a literal cup, right here we are in the cup's suit, like it can overflow, it can get full, it can be empty. So we're trying to figure out the balance between, okay, like I don't want my cup running empty, right, where I don't have any energy or things to, right, do. I want my cup to be full, which might be full of hot, nourishing liquid for myself. It might be full of cool water if I need it to wash out someone's eyes with tear gas. It might be overflowing, right, with community or with empathy or with anger right now, right? So if we think about how do we balance between those things, how are we taking some time where, right, we're filling our empty cup. Sometimes, right, it's okay to allow it to get low, right? I know I just saw someone talking about earlier of like they were in bed and they were saying, okay, like I was out in the streets for 14 hours yesterday protesting. Right now, I'm like telling you, what's going on from bed, and then I'm going to go do this again later, right? Like you can't it's very hard to continually do action all the time. Is why we have to have community, is so that we can help take care of each other, that we can, right, like fill, if we need, all 24 hours of protesting by some people shifts, right? Like sharing our energy, being able to share resources and information is very important. Uh, and it's also a lot of what becomes challenging. So yeah, I guess I just like went on this little rant here, but thinking about, right, how do you allow yourself and then those emotions to come up, right? We're not suppressing them, we're not repressing them. Like it's okay to feel the rage right now, and then, right, make sure that you're taking actions based off of that, that we're not just feeling it in isolation at home, scrolling on social media and not doing anything about it, right? Like how can you donate money or resources or talk to your friends or show up at protests or, right, help people with whatever you can, right? Are you a medical professional that can help people on the ground? Are you, right, someone that's really good at connecting people with resources? Are you really good at technology and making sure things are private? And taking photos. Like there's so many different ways that we can contribute to movements, political movements, and that we can make change right now. And I feel like that's really what we're being called to do. But as we, again, Fridays are Venus Day. And so also we have to think about how do we nourish ourselves? How do we, again, fill our own cups? How do we make sure we're getting our nourishment and energy so that we can go out in the world and do the things we want to do. So maybe, right, what you do today, if you're going out and protesting tomorrow on the 14th, which I know around where I am, there's a lot going on this weekend, that maybe you're taking this day for yourself, right, to prepare mentally, emotionally. Maybe you're watching comfort TV all day. Maybe you're going and getting a Friday the 13th tattoo as your reward for yourself, right? There's just all sorts of different things. Maybe you're getting all your gear together for the protest, right? Maybe you're spending all day with friends or family to just really, like, right, be present in the moment. There's all these things we can do. And really with like Friday, Page of Cups, Friday the 13th, Venus Day, full moon and Sagittarius energy is really all like swirling together right now. And I think it's fueling at least what I'm thinking about in this moment. So I'll move back from my rant and get back into the books and finish out the episode, but I hope that's helpful to you all. So in the Tarot for Change book by Jessica Dorr, they talk about that they consider the Page of Cups to carry the energy of a sensitive child. Some say that maybe you've been told you were too sensitive throughout your life. Um, and there can be this part of ourselves that when we're adults, that, right, especially if we've been told that, we think that, okay, I just can't feel those emotions, right? It's unacceptable, it's unbearable, I'm not allowed to cry at work, right? I can't show that sort of weakness, da da da. And those feelings of like shame and loneliness and fear really get all intertwined again, and it can really like make it very challenging, right, to engage with difficult things. And sadness and loneliness and fear are hard enough on their own, right, without having shame and feeling bad about all those things braided into it. But shame is a very powerful motivator. And often that's why we really, right, push down or avoid the emotions as they come up. Sometimes that's like through actions, and sometimes that just makes it more painful when it finally does kind of like burst through. Um, if this is something that you resonate with, that you've ever thought that you find challenging, you're not too sensitive. It's totally possible to go back and like, right, untangle emotions from shame so it feels less intense when they come up in the present. It's a practice. Again, it's like an unlearning. Okay, actually, it's fine to cry, right? That's totally reasonable given things that are happening. Or it's actually totally okay for me to be angry at injustice. That's real, and I shouldn't just try to push that away. Um, right? We allow it to come up in the present. You can make space. You can, right, do this alone. Sometimes it could be helpful to do it with other people, like a friend or a partner or a therapist. If you're finding it very challenging when you do try to practice it, which is just allowing your emotions to come up and not judging them or not just avoiding them or pushing them down for later or that type of thing. And it's not wrong to feel things, right? We need validation and a space to feel. Um, and and also it makes sense that, right, we've repressed it or shoved it down because, right, we were dealt punishment or ridicule or told to just go do that somewhere else, right? Again, like the no crying at work thing, like just don't. And it's like, that sounds nice, but you can't just not allow emotions. That's not how it works. If we think also of the Rider Waite Smith interpretation of the Page of Cups, it is this bearer of good tidings. The good news is that it isn't too late. You can get the validation you need now and make space for all of your feelings, even these more complicated ones. Validation and making space are at the heart of therapeutic work. That's the work I do outside of this podcast. So I'm a big fan of that, and I love being able to, right, being in that space with people, right, to help allow them to feel emotions and sit with them while it's happening and help them like practice what it's like to actually feel emotions and not like run away or hide from them. Tarot cards can be like a doorway, right? Again, if we think of this whole episode is about the Page of Cups, and right, it just can kind of allow us to have like a frame of reference. This page, right, this Page of Cups is a portal back to a time of sensitivity and tenderness where we might be able to make right what was wrong. Again, if what you were taught in your childhood or throughout your life is that feelings are not okay, like we can reparent that part of ourselves. We can like learn or unlearn what we've been taught from unhelpful people in our lives, and we can like learn a new way. It just takes practice. And again, like having someone else that's there with you or having a guide, a therapist, a mentor, a partner, a friend to be in that space with you is just very helpful and grounding, especially if this work is new to you. All right, and then finally, in the Fearless Tarot book by Elia Adam, How to Give a Positive Reading in Any Situation, they talk about that the Page of Cups is that creative inner child, the part of you that can still be amazed with wonder and curiosity at the world around you. Everyone has creative energy and expresses it differently. The Page of Cups invites you to play, be inspired, and create something beautiful. The Page of Cups follows his heart. He's the sensitive poet of the tarot, and he adores impish pranks. Do you avoid your creativity because you feel you aren't an artist? Do you remember the joy of being creative as a child? Do you ever just let loose and allow yourself to play? And as I think about this, right, maybe that is what you're called to do today, right? Again, especially if you're going to, if you have a full weekend planned of, right, dealing with a lot of other things that are maybe not feeling so playful, right? Allowing ourselves to be creative, to throw ourselves into things. The Page of Cups is this archetype of creativity. Um, there are, yeah, and also this like master at communicating feelings through creativity, especially if you have a hard time talking about feelings or identifying them, listening to music, looking at art, reading, drawing, like any sort of, in my opinion, artistic expression, creating music, poetry, all these different things can give voice to feelings that you, or like describe or indicate or show how you're feeling without using the words necessarily. Like words can be great, right? Like if we read something, it can be so helpful to feel seen by someone, right? I think this is why, like for example, people love Taylor Swift's song lyrics, right? You feel seen when she describes something that she's going through in this perfect, like representation. um, and also with the Page of Cups, right, being this creative inner child, like we get to, um, I was going to say cultivate that, but no, it's there. We just have to kind of allow it and make time and space for it. Right? If you don't make time and space for creativity, it can feel like, oh, well, I'm not creative. But are you allowing yourself to draw pictures or write things or color or again, like listen or create music, to dance, like do all these expressive things? It can just make life feel more vibrant and colorful and also, um, yeah, and just let you feel into that like space that again, I think a lot of us have felt as children, right? Which is this idea of inner child. It's like allowing that part of you, that like very pure part of you that felt maybe easy as a child or just like very resonant to come through again, like as an adult. So doing something crafty, right? Which you can make tarot cards on your own. That's very fun. You can look at tarot. Tarot can be, right, a visual way, a way to be creative. But also, if you want to join me next Friday, June 20th, to create some of your own tarot cards, right, this is a creative endeavor and it can help you, right, you can tap into your intuition, you can create your own things. Of course, there is structure with tarot that you can pull from, or you can make more of like an oracle deck or like a visual representation of how you're feeling right then. I have some cards that are sort of the traditional archetypes from tarot, and then or the major arcana type of cards. And then I have some cards where I'm like, I don't know what this is, but it was what I felt in this moment, and it made sense in that moment, and it's captured on this card. Um, that right, if it means something to me, seeing all the different images pulled together, even if like separately, I wouldn't exactly know what it is. Um, so yeah, it is the sort of cultivation of the artistic part of yourself, which really is like again, all of us. Like we're all creative. Um, Sometimes it might not come through in the medium that you want it to, which would just be to say again, if you love music, but you don't feel like you know how to play any instruments, maybe just singing or songwriting is more the way. Or maybe just right being in a crowd of people singing and chanting together, right, is also this creative endeavor. There's this like energy where we feed off of each other and then you create things that you never could have created on your own. So maybe keep that in mind also as you're perhaps out there protesting this weekend. That right when you're with other people, there can be this creative fire, right? This community, and that things might come of it that individually would feel impossible, but collectively we somehow feel able to do together. So let's see what the cards have to say on this message. Today I'm pulling cards from the Citadel, a Fantasy Oracle by Sun Inkwright. This is still my newest deck, so I'm enjoying getting to know it. I don't think I've pulled every card yet. I think there's 50 something. This is an Oracle deck, but yeah, let's see what this adds to my rant, my inner child discussion today. Ooh, interesting. Okay, I pulled the Hound, which is about loyalty, chains, and promises. Okay. So I pulled it upright, so I will read the upright. It says, the hound paces awaiting orders. In swearing their loyalty to another, they have learned their place in the world and what is most important to them, but they have also lost their freedom. The hound's devotion comes from a deep love, blinding them to a life beyond the person they are sworn to. They have found security in knowing where their next meal comes from, but some part of them still yearns for the wild. Promises are not made lightly, and you may be starting to realize that an agreement you made has come with more restrictions than you thought. Keeping your word is important, but don't let yourself be taken advantage of if it's not too late to decide that a relationship, an agreement, a situation no longer benefits you. Don't hold on to ties of a misguided sense of loyalty or lost time. Sometimes the best path of action is to break free and start again. Well, I think that's a lovely protest message. So I am going to just end it there. So links for the tarot decks I talk about will always be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or find where to purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just as a reminder, the podcast comes out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. You can email me, me@CamilleASaunders.com with your thoughts, questions, anything else you want to send my way, and I will talk to you soon. Okay, bye-bye.